with Dr. Sharon Reese. We are excited about tonight's subject. On my far right, we have
Morgan Cheney.
and
Carboy Cam.
and I'm going to allow all of my special guests on tonight to introduce themselves. Right here to my right, we have
Minister Kathy Waters.
and to my left,
Apostle Kimberly Hartman.
and to my far left.
Marshall Chemical Jr.
All right. So we are so excited about having our panelists with us on tonight. We are going to dive right in. We have a subject that is very touchy. Tonight we're going to talk about submission, okay? When we begin to talk about submission, everybody starts to get a little antsy. Why? Why do we get antsy when it comes to submission? Submission to authority, submission in relationships, submission in marriage. Wow, we have a show for you on tonight. So let's get started. Let's just dive right in. How do we define submission? Apostle Hartman?
We define submission as first we submit to God, because if you submit to Him, then you can submit to anybody. But it's not about being Lord over somebody. It's just about the respect.
Okay, all right.
I would define submission as, honestly, a place of honor. Submission has been given sometimes, I would say, a negative connotation, but I see submission as being meek. But meek does not mean that you're weak. Meek means you have power, but under control.
Oh, wow.
So that's how I like
Power
it.
under control. I like that. Maestro, how do you define submission?
Submission for me is, to me, a covenant. First with Christ, and then it's a big covenant with God first. Then everything else will come to the rest. A lot of folk always think submission is I can say it like this, like it's real bad, but it's not. It's a real great thing. You get great. I tell folks you get great fruit behind it.
Well, that's good.
In your submission.
All right.
Yes.
So, Choir Boy Cam, how do you define submission?
I agree with what everybody else has said so far. I mean, a lot of people, they look at submission, and Morgan, you can agree, like, I feel like a lot of our generation, they kind of look at submission as like a negative type of thing. But I believe that she Apostle opened it up so well. It's first like submitting to God, right? Like me being the man who will be the man of my household and my family and all that good stuff, you know what I'm saying? First, I gotta submit to God, and then my wife will, follow that. I'm supposed to lead her, but I can't expect my wife to follow my lead if I'm not first submitting to God. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, Morgan.
My definition of submission would be surrendering all control. You're giving your all, and you're putting your all into whatever it is that you're surrendering to. That you're submitting to.
Okay.
I feel like another word for submit is like yield.
Yeah.
Right? Like, just be like, hey, I don't have to win the argument. I don't have to always be right. Like, in order to keep peace or to move forward or, you know what I'm saying? Just raise the white flag and be like, hey, I yield the floor and let's just move on. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I yield the floor. I yield the floor to everybody on this panel on today because they're going to help me, okay? Everybody's going to help me. I am one of those people who have been in control of so much for so long and been in power for so long that every once in a while I need to be reminded of what I'm supposed to be doing when I'm supposed to be doing it. And I know nobody else on this panel has that issue except me, but I'm just being honest about me tonight. So, Apostle Hartman, we were talking before the show and we were having this great conversation about submitting. One of the things that we began to talk about was submitting in relationships.
Yes. Submitting in relationships think about this. I'm a female, but if I've gone through domestic abuse, mental abuse, any type of abuse, and I've never seen good, when I see good, I won't know good because all
Wow.
I've seen was bad.
Wow.
And when I should submit, I'm kicking. I'm like that black stallion. I just refuse to be tamed. And then, but by the time, but I feel like, and honestly, I can speak from experience because I never saw good. I always saw bad. And so it took a while, but the Lord himself had to really talk to me, had to really do some work in me, but heal me in some places. And a lot of times submission, if you're broken, it's hard to submit. It's even hard to submit to authority.
Wow. Listen, we're going to stop right there. We're going to be back in just a couple of minutes. We're going to pay some bills, and we'll be right back at you. Submit. When should I?
Don't miss the chance to see Sanctified, the hilarious and uplifting musical comedy written and directed by Javon Johnson. It's happening Saturday, November the 11th at 2 p.m. and 7 p.m. That's right, 2 great shows at the Kroc Center of Augusta, Georgia, located 1833 Broad Street, Augusta. Get your tickets today at www.denisewilliams.productions or by phone 770-686-3667. Again, that's Sanctified. Saturday, November the 11th, 2 great shows, 2 p.m. and 7 p.m.
And we're back to Brewing It Up with Dr. Reese. Listen, during the commercial break, we were having a very interesting conversation, and Choir Boy Cam had something that he wanted to say.
I mean, I just wanted it to be known that in this generation, I feel like we're living in a world where women just don't want to submit. And I'm not thinking that women are the only ones who are supposed to submit, so don't hear me wrong. But I feel like everybody's on this like Miss Independent, like I don't need no man for this, I don't da-da-da-da. And I want a woman that has her own, that can do her own thing, you know what I'm saying? But I feel like when it's time to like fall back and let me lead, you know what I'm saying? Because I can lead and I lead well, then allow me to do that. You get what I'm saying?
Well, hold up. Now, not every man can lead and lead well. You made that point that you can lead and lead well. But what about those who don't lead well and still want us to fall in line?
Right. I think that's what the biggest issue is in our generation, since we have so many women that's, what'd you say? Independent, because they have submitted to the wrong men and they led them down the wrong path. So now that's why we have the women on the women empowerment journey, because we have to build ourselves back up from going through stuff that we went through with the wrong men.
Well, my thing is, if you listen, I also feel like in this generation, people like the red flags, they like the toxicness. So it's like, don't sit here and complain about a man like leading you down the wrong path and you're not submitting. If you already knew that I was gonna lead you down the wrong path, you wanted the gangbanger, you wanted the bad dude.
Right,
so
right,
don't sit here and complain about you going down the wrong path if it's like if you knew what I was when you got with me. You get what I'm saying?
Well,
But-
I was going to say a couple of things. The first thing that we're missing is that we're off balance. And one reason we're off balance because there's a lack of communication. And we have to communicate those things, just like you guys are communicating here. It's hard to submit when there's no communication.
I agree.
And that's what happened. Everybody is, I want this and but what's better for us? And the only way that you can determine what's better for us is that two people have to come together to have a conversation.
Yeah.
And we have to know how to sometimes agree that we disagree. We're not gonna always agree on everything. And when things are so different now for you all than it was with us. When I was growing up, my mom, you know, a lot of the women didn't work outside of the home. They didn't have that. And so now women are just as strong, just as empowered as men are. And so it just has to be that balance. I say it like this. I've heard so many men say, I don't mind a woman who is strong, but I don't want a woman who's more masculine than me.
And I understand that, but my thing is, if you want me to be the woman of my grandmother's age, then you need to be the man of my grandfather. Well, back then, you know, Big Mama, she raised 14 children. She stayed at home. She worked. She cleaned. She cooked. She did all these things. But Pop went out there and he earned the bacon. And not only did he earn the bacon, he still came home and he was obviously doing something right. They had 14 children.
Okay,
So-
but also, y'all gotta understand, listen, we ain't in the same economy y'all was in back in the day. Y'all
I'm
can
just
buy
saying.
snacks for a few cents. We gotta pay $5 for a snack. You get what I'm saying?
But you're
So-
also making $20 an hour, whereas they were only making a few cents an hour back then.
But even now, it doesn't like line up. You know what I'm saying? Like, the people are making more money, but things cost even more. So it makes sense that both people in the family are working these days. Both they have to.
But
to
that's
stay
where,
afloat.
but that's where that communication comes in. Communication is so key. Most relationships break down because of lack of communication. And when we say communication, we're not just talking about communication man to woman. You gotta have communication with your money. You gotta have communication about your sex life. You gotta have communication about how you're gonna raise the kid. Everything.
That's all.
And so if we don't have communication about everything, then ain't nothing gonna work.
I agree
Right.
with that.
I
I have
agree.
to agree with that. Apostle Harmon, you were about to say something.
I mean, communication is good, and yes, but you were talking about that the people of this generation, like, they want somebody who do this, do that, you know, that's against the grain. But what about the female that came out of a home, never saw submission, and may have been molested, may have been, you know, beaten, may have been, you don't know, but the thing is, you're getting the surface. You don't know what you're getting in here. You don't know what she's been through.
Right.
You don't know how you and her and you wanting to cuddle her, but then she don't want you to touch her because somebody else touched her wrong. And so the thing is, how do you handle, how do you deal, and then you marry someone like that, but then it takes you years for her to really become the woman that are you willing to wait that long? Are you willing to go through all of that? And we talk about submission, but it's so many people out here submitting to the wrong thing. People trauma bond. That's what brings people
I like
together.
that. I like that.
They bond in their trauma. That is why you see a lot of homeless people or drug addicts, and you say, why is she with him? Because they bonded in the trauma. It ain't because they're in love, they just bonded in the trauma. So when trauma hits, how do you get past the trauma in the relationship in order to have the submission?
Everybody think about that one. Think about that one. When we come back, we're going to get further into this conversation. Give us a few. We'll be right back.
I'm Mac Hardy. Come on down to McCormick Tire and Oil. We open Tuesday through Saturday from 7:30 to 5. And we specialize in oil, tires, and brakes, wheelbarrows, CB axles. And but military discount is every day. And on Wednesday we have Senior Citizen Day. So come on down to McCormick Tire and Oil. We got everything you need. Thanks.
Tune in to the Quartet Show every Sunday at 8 p.m. with the Godfather Quartet, Brother Corey Johnson, on WCTL Channel 20. Come on and get you some of that good old hand-clapping, foot-stomping music. Again, that's the Quartet Show with the Godfather Quartet, Brother Corey Johnson.
So we were talking about trauma bond. Ooh, have mercy. So, Kevin,
Yes.
what's your thoughts? What's your take?
I think my take when she said that, the first thing came across my head even after when she said that was, in the whole thing, it's about you got to increase your love.
Mm-hmm.
If you love a person and you say you'll die for this person, will you increase your love? Would you really love them for real?
Mm-hmm.
You know, you'll get tested in that theory because it's easy for us to get married and have kids and do all this stuff, but when you get tested in that theory about that love, when you see their hurt and pain, you know, they can't get, you know, what they need. You know, I have to say this from familiarity, from family, friends, and foes. That's their comfort. But when it comes with them coming into that sacred place that I call between man and wife, it's kind of a hard thing because sometimes some of them they got to get used to that person, and it's because they got to be naked in front of you, and it's easy for them to do it in front of their girlfriends. It's easy for them to do it in front of their mother. It's easy for them to do it in front of, you know, the pastor if they, you know, go to church and stuff. But a lot of friends of mine, they had to learn through the struggles of knowing that, you know, I got to increase my love if I'm in love with this person. And what got me was they got money, they got bank, and I'm talking about women. They got bank, but guess what? Some of them don't have a man.
Woo.
Because, and they want a man like myself. But I told them that for you to have a man like me, you gotta learn how to deal with me. You gotta deal with my identity. You gotta deal with my mind and my heart. You just cannot just say that because, oh, he looked like an eye candy. Oh, she like an eye candy. It's easy for us to get that, but but you don't know what you take home.
Now that's true.
Amen.
That's
Yes.
true. Now,
Yes.
I can honestly say, everybody knows my husband and I's story and how I was in the hospital when he proposed. So he already knew that I was sick. I had medical issues, things that I was dealing with. And a lot of people look at the fact, well, you know, he's a deacon in her church and she's the senior leader in the church and that's an imbalance. But it's not. I believe that when I look at my relationship with my husband, he shows his submission to God through how he loves me and how he cares for me. Even in sickness, how he takes care of me. You know, it takes a real man to sit and watch their significant other suffering and not just want to alleviate the pain, but do everything they can to minimize the pain. That takes a real man. That takes a real man. Corporal Cam, I just have to come back to you. And I know it seems like I'm picking on you today, but I'm not really picking on you.
No, not at all.
The thing is, we talk about the women's empowerment, the women's movement, and a lot of us are strong, but we have to be strong in today's society because you have so many leeches that are looking for women like us, and they want to know our vulnerable side. And wherever they can find a vulnerability, that's when they just come and latch on and try to suck you dry. They want your money, they want your loving, they want your kindness, they want your care, they want everything they can get from you. Tell me, what's going on with the men in society?
I mean, I can't speak for nobody else. I can only speak for me. You know what I'm saying? But like, for me personally, I look for a strong woman. I come from a lineage of like strong women. I got strong women in my family. So when I see a weak woman, I'm not attracted to that. You get what I'm saying? I want you to have some get up and go about yourself. I want you to have your own. I want you to, have your own thing going. However, as we were speaking about at the beginning, it's like, hey, like in the times that we're supposed to submit to each other, like I want you to be comfortable with doing that and okay with doing that. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
But I feel like there has been kind of like a disconnect as generations has gone on because a lot of times what we're seeing is a lot of us young men are growing up without men in the family.
That's where I was going.
Or in the
That's where I
household.
was
You know what I'm
going.
saying? So it's like we're not being taught you know, how to lead well as a man. So then we have young daughters who are like, well, I ain't gonna submit because you're not leading how my dad led my mom. You know what I'm saying? But it's like a lot of us don't know how to do it because we didn't see it. You know what I'm saying?
That's it. You cannot do what has not been displayed.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And you can't receive what has never been given.
That's right.
So as young men, they can't do what's been displayed, and young women can't receive it because they've never seen it given.
Right.
So it really goes back to the dynamic and the new structure of what families are looking like now.
Yeah.
Families are no longer looking like, you know, the mom, the dad, the 2 kids, the dog, the picket fence. So that has changed a lot.
Yeah.
It has.
Listen, family dynamics have changed. We're going to talk about it a little more when we come back. Stay with us.
Don't miss the chance to see Sanctified, the hilarious and uplifting musical comedy written and directed by Javon Johnson. It's happening Saturday, November the 11th at 2 p.m. and 7 p.m. That's right, 2 great shows at the Kroc Center of Augusta, Georgia, located 1833 Broad Street, Augusta. Get your tickets today at www.denisewilliams.productions or by phone 770-686-3667. Again, that's Sanctified. Saturday, November the 11th, 2 great shows, 2 p.m. and 7 p.m.
Hello, this is Apostle Alvin Deal. Welcome you to Magic 102.7 FM, 1090 AM. My gospel radio program comes on every Sunday morning right here in Greenwood at 1090 AM, 102.7 FM. Tune in every Sunday morning at 8 a.m. to 8:30 a.m. Listen, what did God say? Radio broadcast. I need you, and you to be a part of this radio broadcast. 102.7 FM, 1090 AM. Looking forward to hearing you there.
Conversation can go so much longer, but we are down to our last few minutes of the show. So we're going to start from the end of our panel, and we're just going to flow for the next few minutes. Maestro Kevin, give us your final thoughts.
I think that when it comes with relationships or in general of that, it's the biggest thing I want to say is misunderstanding status. Everybody misunderstands each other. It's in text messages, it's in conversations, it's in body language, it's in how you look at things, how you feel, and like I said, and the funny thing about it, we are in today's society of everybody is in the spirit of offense. Everybody get offensive so quick about a lot of things in their life because of trauma, and it can be from mental or emotionally or physically, and that's why I always tell folks to make sure they go to counseling. Have somebody that can be there for you.
Okay. Apostle Hartman?
As I said before, people bond in their trauma. But you have to ask the question, absolutely, and be honest. What does submission look like in your mirror? When you're looking in your mirror, what does submission look like? Does it look like molestation? Does it look like shame, blame, rejection, abandonment. What does submission look like? Does it look like trust? Does it look like what you've seen or what you haven't seen? But what does submission look like in your mirror?
Wow.
Yeah, again, I go back to saying submission is not an ugly word. Submission is a word of honor. And I always say, if you want to be in authority, I need to see how you can submit under authority. You can't lead if you don't know how to follow. And all of those things take a level of some type of submission. Elevation only comes when you submit. So you can't lead if you don't know how to first submit. So submission is necessary in marriage. Submission is necessary in business, in the marketplace, and submission is definitely necessary to be successful in ministry.
Wow. Choir boy Cam?
I feel like after this conversation, I'm gonna change up my prayer a little bit. You know what I'm saying? My prayer has been, Lord, like, give me the wisdom to lead well. But I think I should also add, like, Lord, give me the wisdom to know when to submit. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I think of the story of Solomon. Like, he asked the Lord for wisdom, and because he asked for that and where his heart was at that time, the Lord gave him everything else that he did not even ask for. And it's like, because you asked for wisdom, now I'm going to give you all this. I'm going to add all of this. So I believe that in the season, if I ask for wisdom on when to lead and when to submit, I'll be just fine. You know what I'm saying? I'll be good.
Morgan Trinity.
I agree with everybody tonight. We had good key points, and like Ms. Kathy said, submission is not an ugly word, but it is something that our generation has gotten away from, and mostly because of trauma bonds, as she had said, because that's really common in our generation, especially with dating and the marriages, and that's why a lot of it does not work. But everything happens for a reason. Everybody can change, but everybody's not willing to change. So if you cannot find the person who's willing to change and willing to work with you throughout your relationship for submission, then maybe you need to
Stay submitted to God.
stay submitted to God.
Oh no. No. In closing on today, I just want everyone to know and understand that, as all of these men and women have said, submission is not an ugly word, but submission is necessary. Everyone needs to be submitted to someone or something. And so, having said that, I want to encourage you, our viewers, our listeners, take a look in the mirror, as Apostle Hardman said. What does submission look like to you? What does it mean to you? As you do introspection, then once you find out who you are, that and then and only then are you ready to be in a relationship with someone else. Listen, it was great being with you on today. We hope you enjoyed our show. We'll be back on next week with another hot topic for you. Tune in. We love you. We look forward to seeing you next week.
Hello, this is Apostle Alvin Deal. Welcome you to Magic 102.7 FM, 1090 AM. My gospel radio program comes on every Sunday morning right here in Greenwood at 1090 AM, 102.7 FM. Tune in every Sunday morning at 8 a.m. to 8:30 a.m. Listen, what did God say? Radio broadcast. I need you, and you to be a part of this radio broadcast. 102.7 FM, 1090 AM. Looking forward to hearing you there.